30 years since its release to widespread critical acclaim, Sarafina hit the silver screen once more in a commemorative screening in New York. Producer Anant Singh co-hosted the event along with the Nelson Mandela Foundation and the South African Consulate General in New York. Some of the film's cast attended the event, including Leleti Khumalo and Whoopi Goldberg. To unpack the legacy of Sarafina, I'm joined from New York City by Anant Singh, who produced the iconic film. Thank you very much, Mr. Singh, for your time this evening, all the way from New York. So 30 years on, how has your emotional response to this child of yours, if I can call it that, changed over time?
Thanks, Anlie. It was really quite fascinating to be able to represent the film here in New York. Yesterday represented 30 years since we had the world premiere of the film right here in New York at Radio City Music Hall. And then a day before that, we had the premiere in Johannesburg with Madiba. And, when we started this film, Madiba was still in prison. So it's quite a mammoth journey. But what was fascinating to have the cast, including Leleti and Whoopi that you mentioned, but also the many younger stars who were in the film who have now relocated to the U.S., working on shows like Lion King, etc., is that perpetuation of that legacy of what the film Sarafina represents. But I think screening it here at the Museum of Modern Art was quite exceptional in that 30 years later, the film is still, if not more relevant today than it ever was. Because while that battle we had of the youth fighting for our liberation and celebrating the woman of that generation especially, it was really important to also acknowledge the other roles in the film, the educator who taught beyond the syllabus, represented by Whoopi, and then you had Maria Makeba representing the mothers. And today, when we look at the world and the war in Ukraine or the many other issues that young people have to deal with, it's about the hope of the people, of those young people in Sarafina that prevailed. And I think that was the overriding outcome of the screening, and really quite a moving experience. And to think that it's 30 years old and it's still got such an emotional response from audiences was really quite special.
So understandably, 30 years on, after the initial screening in New York, that's why you went back to New York. But it's Heritage Day in South Africa tomorrow. So when are you going to have another commemorative screening here in South Africa so that the youth here who perhaps have missed out on a generation that is familiar with the film, to those young people in South Africa who haven't maybe seen it yet, what power does this still hold?
Yes, thank you very much. But we specifically chose this date or this week because not only was it a celebration of the 30-year anniversary, it was also the United Nations week, and a lot of our guests included United Nations members, but to celebrate Heritage Month. And so it was a perfect opportunity. And certainly based on our reaction, and Leleti and I had screened the film in South Africa just on June 16th for a few special audiences in Durban, Joburg, and Cape Town. And I am looking towards possibly re-releasing the film in December or January, because I do feel that having watched it with so many people both in South Africa and in the US, the experience that the audience gets when they watch this film in a movie theater is so much more visceral and so much more powerful. And so many people in South Africa came up to us and said, I'm 33 years old or 35-year-old. I have children who are now teens, and I would love for them, I want to bring them to come and see it. And because, they've only seen it on television, they know the songs, they know what it represents, but I do feel there's a great opportunity and one that brings a lot of hope, which is so important in our country today.
Music and dance has incredible power to South Africans, and I think that power travels with them across the world wherever they are. So at this commemorative screening, what kind of reaction did you get from those in the audience who were perhaps part of the cast or South Africans attending who immediately reconnected with the spirit of the music and the dance in that original film?
You know, it was really fascinating, and it was really nice to have both Whoopi and Laletti, who were the key elements of that film's cast. And for both of them, first of all, it was a remarkable and really refreshing reunion, because I don't think they had connected for maybe 25 years. And you know, they were very close. And thereafter, you know, the fact that Laletti was there, and you know, she also played this role on Broadway, which was just down the road from the movie theater that we played it at. And you know, to rekindle those memories, so many New Yorkers came up to us, and many South Africans, because we invited through the embassy a large number of locally based South Africans who were totally moved by the film, and having Laletti in our presence really made it a magical evening, because she is so mesmerizing. And even today, you know, in the way she conducted the interviews and the love and appreciation, you know, we only got out of the theater maybe at about midnight, and everybody was trying to, you know, take pictures, get her to sign autographs, etc., which was really something exceptionally enjoyable.
So 1992, at the original release, the message had an incredible urgency to it. And I think that was why it was received partially so well globally. Talk to us about the timing and its global relevance now.
Well, you know, I think what we had there in 92, which was the film celebrated the 1976 rebellion by the young people against Afrikaans and the devastation that came behind it. And I think one of the things that is totally relevant today, where young people, not only in South Africa, but all over the world, have so many challenges and adversity in trying to overcome their daily lives. You know, the idea of watching Sarafina and watching how the young people embraced the challenges and grew from that experience. And I think it's about younger people taking control and harnessing what they have to do to make their lives better, and more importantly, for the world, for going down the line, you know, in our case, South Africa, but in this case, I think now it's a global challenge. And I think that is the overriding message. And, you know, that we've come from this horrific apartheid era, but at the same time, we have other challenges that we have to embrace with the same tenacity and ability to deal with it.
Well, thank you very much for sharing this commemoration with us all the way from New York. Anant Singh, film producer, reflecting on Sarafina 30 years after its release.